Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The soft glow of the bedside lamp painted golden streaks across the room, catching the curve of my shoulder and the delicate line of my collarbone. I lay there in a thin nightgown that seemed to vanish into the warmth of the bed, feeling the gentle brush of the sheets against my skin. My thoughts were quiet, swirling with a mix of anticipation and curiosity, until the soft click of the door announced his presence. He appeared in the doorway, a glass of water in his hand, but there was a pause in his step, an almost magnetic hesitation. His eyes lingered on me, just a moment longer than necessary, tracing the outline of my form with a warmth that made my pulse flutter. I felt it in the way his gaze seemed to hold me, heavy with unspoken words, playful and intimate all at once. "Here," he said, his voice low and familiar, yet touched with a quiet mischief. The movement of his hand handing me the glass was slow, deliberate, almost teasing, and I couldn't help but notice how close he leaned, the soft brush of his fingers against mine. My breath hitched, though I told myself it was nothing. There was a charged pause as he stayed just a moment too long, the nightgown shifting slightly over my hips as I adjusted. It was accidental, I told myself, yet his eyes never looked away, warm and attentive, a spark of quiet admiration there. I felt the closeness of his presence, the way he stood in the lamplight, easy and unhurried, and my own awareness of the room sharpened. Every glance, every subtle movement felt loaded with something tender and thrilling, a dance we hadn't named yet but both understood. I sipped the water, careful, though my hands trembled ever so slightly. He remained, leaning just a little closer, the air between us thick with unspoken possibilities. I knew the moment could shift in an instant, yet part of me hoped it would linger, savoring the tension, the teasing, the quiet intimacy of a connection that was both forbidden and undeniably real. And as his eyes met mine again, there was a question lingering there, a promise, leaving me suspended on the edge of what was about to happen next. I set the glass on the nightstand, but neither of us moved away. He lingered there, just close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him, a quiet invitation in the way he leaned casually against the door frame. "You're too quiet tonight," he murmured, the words soft, but carrying that teasing edge that made my heart skip. I tilted my head, meeting his gaze, and let a small, knowing smile curl on my lips. "Maybe I just like watching you," I whispered back, letting my voice drop to a shade that made even me shiver. His eyes darkened with amusement, and he stepped a fraction closer, shortening the distance between us without touching. The air felt heavier, charged with an energy neither of us could name, a blend of longing and something unspoken. I caught the faintest brush of his fingers against my hand as I reached for the blanket, a deliberate touch that sent a spark running up my arm. "Careful," I teased, though my voice betrayed the tension I felt. "You might start something you can't stop." He chuckled softly, a low sound that resonated through the quiet room. "Maybe that's exactly what I want," he said, leaning closer, so close I could feel his breath grazing my cheek. My pulse quickened, and I could see the tiniest flicker of hesitation in his eyes, as if he was measuring the line we were both dancing along. There was a secret in his gaze, something he wasn't telling me, and I felt the pull of curiosity twist with desire. We exchanged soft laughs, half-whispers, teasing words that carried double meanings. Each glance, each subtle brush seemed to pull us further into this shared moment, this fragile bubble that existed only between us. And yet, beneath the flirtation, I sensed a tension, something unsaid that hung just under the surface, threading suspense into every heartbeat. I rested my hand lightly on his arm, feeling the warmth of his skin, and he responded with a small, deliberate tilt of his head closer to mine. The room seemed smaller, the night darker, the quiet punctuated by soft breaths and the unspoken question hovering between us. Whatever that secret was, it promised to shift everything, and we both knew the moment of truth was waiting just beyond this suspended tension. The quiet between us had grown heavier, as if the air itself waited for something to happen. I traced a finger along the edge of the blanket, catching glimpses of his smile in the soft lamplight, and felt that familiar pull, part desire, part unease. He leaned closer, close enough that our shoulders brushed, and I couldn't tell if the warmth I felt was from him or the sudden flutter of anticipation twisting through me. "I can't stop thinking," he whispered, a mischievous glint in his eyes, "about what might happen if no one was watching." The words lingered, teasing, daring, and I felt my stomach tighten. I met his gaze, letting the tiniest arch of my eyebrow speak before I replied, "And what if someone was watching?" There was a flicker in his eyes, a trace of hesitation, but he didn't move away. The night seemed to shrink around us, every brush of skin, every shared breath amplifying the tension. I felt him inch closer, our legs brushing under the thin nightgown, subtle touches charged with unspoken promises. We laughed softly, playful yet daring, each whispered word layered with meanings we didn't dare fully speak aloud. Then, a shadow of doubt crossed his face, a sudden flicker that made my chest tighten. I saw a message earlier," he said quietly, almost too casual. "Not that it matters, but it got me thinking." My heart skipped. I sensed the jealousy beneath the surface, mixed with curiosity, excitement, and that dangerous edge that always made our private moments feel like a delicate tightrope. I leaned slightly back, studying him, letting a teasing smile curve my lips. "Oh? And what exactly were you thinking?" I asked, my voice soft, coaxing, yet carrying the spice of the unknown. He hesitated, swallowed, then smiled a little wryly, leaning just a fraction closer. "Maybe that the idea of sharing, of seeing, of exploring together could be fun. Just a thought." His words hung in the air, daring, almost dangerous, but neither of us moved away. My pulse raced as I processed it. The room felt hotter, smaller, our playful touches now mixed with a new, daring curiosity. The secret idea was tempting, thrilling, yet frightening in its intensity. And in that suspended moment, I realized we were balancing on the edge, between desire and consequence, between trust and temptation. And no one could tell which way we would fall. The lamp's soft glow made shadows dance across the walls, wrapping the room in warmth, secrecy, and anticipation. I could feel him closer than before, the heat of his presence pressing against mine, subtle yet undeniable. Every inch that separated us felt charged, every brush of his hand a deliberate spark that sent shivers down my spine. My fingers found the edge of his sleeve, tracing lightly, almost teasingly, as if testing the boundary between curiosity and desire. He leaned in, his breath brushing my ear, and whispered something so soft it made my chest tighten. The words themselves were playful, daring, filled with hints that only we understood. I shivered under his touch, the tension between us magnifying with every heartbeat. Our shoulders pressed together, our legs brushed under the thin nightgown, and I felt the weight of that unspoken secret pressing down on us both. A sudden pause in his movements made me glance at him, catching that fleeting flicker of worry in his eyes, the same hesitation that had been there before, a hint of fear that someone might interrupt, that the fragile moment could shatter. The danger only made the closeness more intoxicating. I let a teasing smile linger, deliberately slow, letting him feel the pull, the unspoken promise. "Do you ever wonder," he murmured, almost to himself, "what would happen if someone walked in?" My stomach tightened, a thrill running through me, because the thought of exposure made everything sharper, more alive. I leaned closer, my lips brushing the shell of his ear, whispering back softly, letting the tension coil tighter. Our laughter became quieter, breaths deeper, and every casual touch grew bolder, a dance of intention and restraint. His hand brushed my arm, lingered, tracing a line that made my pulse race. I caught his gaze in the lamplight, eyes dark, full of unspoken questions, challenges, and desire. My own heartbeat thundered in my ears, matching the rhythm of the anticipation that hung like electricity between us. And then, just as the room seemed to shrink around us, just as every nerve and every thought became a tangle of longing and fear, the door creaked. The sound was faint, almost insignificant, yet it cut through the intimacy like a flash of cold. We froze, bodies still so close, breaths shallow, eyes locked on each other, hearts pounding. The secret, the tension, the desire, it all waited on the edge, suspended, hanging in that single, impossible moment, leaving everything unresolved. The moment stretched, suspended between heartbeats, until the tension finally tipped, spilling into a quiet storm of shared emotion. I felt him close, the warmth of his body pressing against mine, every subtle brush and deliberate touch amplified by the months of unspoken longing, the teasing glances, the near misses we had danced around for so long. Our breaths mingled, shallow and fast, and I could sense every flicker of hesitation, every ounce of desire mirrored in his eyes. He reached for my hand, holding it lightly but firmly, and the contact sent a ripple through me, a surge of anticipation that made my chest ache. I tilted my head, letting our foreheads rest together for just a heartbeat, and in that small closeness, the world outside the room seemed to disappear. The whispered laughter, soft murmurs, and playful teasing of earlier nights had transformed into something deeper, raw, unguarded, undeniable. The air between us felt electric, charged by the combination of relief, longing, and a shared secret that had hovered between us for too long. Every gentle touch, every brush of lips against skin, every lingering gaze, became a language only we understood. It was the culmination of months of tension, of small stolen moments, of daring words whispered in the safety of this private world. Just when the closeness reached its peak, the tension of the earlier secret, our fear, our excitement, found its release. We laughed softly against each other's lips, a mixture of disbelief and exhilaration, hearts pounding, bodies pressed together, the private storm finally opening and letting us breathe in the shared joy of complete connection. In that perfect, suspended beat, the teasing, the fear, the longing, all of it was satisfied, leaving only warmth, intimacy, and a quiet reverence for the moment. And then, a soft ping from his phone broke through the euphoria. His expression flickered, a shadow of something unreadable passing through his eyes. He held my hand, fingers tightening slightly, and whispered, "I think we're not done yet." That single line carried a new twist, a hint of surprise, a promise of future challenges or secrets yet to unfold, leaving the room tinged with excitement once more. We stayed like that, close, heartbeats syncing, breaths mingling, suspended between passion and curiosity, knowing that while the climax had brought release, the story and the thrill was far from over. The room had quieted, the storm of tension and desire finally settling into a calm, warm glow. We lay together, bodies still close, limbs intertwined in a way that felt effortless and natural. The lamp's soft golden light cast a tender warmth over our skin, illuminating the contentment in his eyes and the soft, reflective smile that lingered on my lips. For the first time in months, the unspoken burdens between us felt lighter, replaced by a connection that was both intimate and reassuring. He brushed a stray strand of hair from my face, his touch gentle, lingering. "I never realized how much I missed this," he whispered, voice low and soft, carrying both relief and wonder. I met his gaze, feeling the sincerity, the quiet vulnerability in him, and in that instant, all the teasing, the suspense, and even the tension of unspoken secrets melted into a shared understanding. I traced the curve of his jawline with my fingers, letting our closeness speak louder than words. "I missed this too," I replied, soft but certain, savoring the rhythm of our breathing, the warmth of his hand against mine. Every touch, every glance now felt like an affirmation, a silent promise of trust and the depth of what we shared. We talked quietly, whispers blending with soft laughter, reflecting on the moments that had led us here, the teasing glances, the playful tension, the sparks of daring curiosity that had tested us. And as we reminisced, I realized that those moments had built something far more lasting, a bond that thrived on intimacy, understanding, and shared desire, wrapped in the safety of being together. As the night deepened, we held each other, cherishing the closeness, letting our hearts speak in the language of quiet contentment. There was no rush, no need to fill the silence. It was enough to simply exist together, wrapped in warmth and trust. I felt the lingering thrill of the night, tempered by the serenity of emotional resolution, a perfect balance of passion and reflection. Finally, I rested my head against his shoulder, letting a deep sigh escape. He tightened his embrace, and we stayed that way, suspended in a peaceful intimacy that felt like a promise for every tomorrow. In that quiet moment, I knew that what mattered most wasn't the teasing, the tension, or the daring. It was us, fully present, fully connected, and completely together.